Y'all, it's finally happened. It may have taken me 95 episodes, but I have finally found a reason to talk about Star Trek on this show. And I'm doing it in such a way that it will actually be relevant and helpful, showing you a concept that can actually help you overcome perfectionism, hopefully without boring you to death if Star Trek isn't your jam. I'm going to tell you about this thing on Star Trek called the Kobayashi Maru. And then I'm going to share with you a real life example of something similar that happened in my own life and the aha moment that I recently had. And hopefully, we'll all walk away from this conversation with a new understanding of how perfectionism can show up in our careers and just really jack us up so that we can make moves to protect ourselves. I am so excited for what is probably going to be a very nerdy conversation. But if you're here for it, I'm here for you. All right? So, let's get to it. Ready? Let's go. Good day, good people. Welcome back to episode 95 of the Life Edit Project podcast. I'm your girl, your favorite life coach and podcast host, Coach Elizabeth, and I am really geeked up about today's topic. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous to nerd out this hard on this show, but I like to keep it real, and the real me is honestly a very big Trekkie. Like, Star Trek is my thing. So, this is what you got. If you happen to be a longtime listener, then you already know that I'm a big old nerd, so this is not a surprise. I love learning and thinking, and I love connecting the dots between different concepts. And I also love creating my own concepts as a way to help my clients and my community find new ways to approach challenges and problems. I've also come to see my nerdiness as one of my superpowers as a life coach. I will gladly invest a ton of brain power to help my clients solve problems and reach their goals and find new ways to just love their life. And so I'm giving myself permission to run with this very nerdy topic because who knows, maybe this will be the metaphor that makes something click for you, and far be it from me to deny you an aha moment. And of course, if you're not picking up what I'm laying down, that's fine. If there's something in particular that you really want to hear me talk about, just let me know. In fact, there is a link in the show notes that will take you to a form where you can ask me anything, and I will actually respond to your question on a future episode right here on the podcast. So that is a guaranteed way to make sure that you hear more of what you want on the show. Ask me anything. So be sure to check that out. All right, so let's dive into the deep end and talk about the Kobayashi Maru. If you don't know anything about Star Trek, it's fine. I got you covered. Here is the quick and dirty nutshell. And I'm just going to assume, so that we're all on the same page, that maybe you know absolutely nothing about Star Trek. So, Star Trek is a futuristic sci-fi franchise that started as a TV show back in the 1960s, created by a man named Gene Roddenberry. Roddenberry envisioned a future where humans had basically evolved beyond the petty conflicts that we have today on Earth and into a more united and morally advanced spacefaring species. And so the whole premise of the show is about just watching what happens when these future evolved humans explore strange new worlds and seek out new life and new civilizations. And there's a lot of social commentary that's happening in Star Trek, which is one of the reasons why I love it, but that's not what this episode is about today, so I'm not going to go there. In the Star Trek universe, there's basically a multi-planetary alliance called the United Federation of Planets, and they're like the equivalent of what the United Nations would be for us here on Earth. So when planets join the Federation, they agree to abide by a code of conduct, and in exchange, they get to join this really powerful economic and military alliance. And so the Federation's military arm is called Starfleet. And Starfleet is a highly respected and very elite space force. And the reason they're so good, the reason they are so elite is because of the very awesome training that they get at a school called Starfleet Academy. And at Starfleet Academy, there is a very famous test called the Kobayashi Maru. The Kobayashi Maru is basically a simulation where a military spaceship gets an SOS call to rescue a civilian ship, and they get attacked by enemy ships as they're in the process of trying to rescue the civilians. Now, the point of the simulation is to test the character and the decision-making abilities of whoever is in command of that military vessel. But there's a huge catch. The Kobayashi Maru is a no-win situation. It is unwinnable. There is no set of decisions that you can make where you rescue the civilian safely and make it out with your life and your ship and your crew completely intact. You're gonna lose something no matter what. It is literally a no-win scenario, an unwinnable game. And I think perfectionists, I think we find ourselves in similar situations all the time here in real life, especially when it comes to work and careers. And allow me, please, to give you a real life example of this from my own life, because sharing is caring. So y'all know that I am a professional life coach, and I have actually been a life coach for the last 7 years. But in addition to coaching, I also have a really long and extensive career in economic development and community development in the public and nonprofit sectors. And so, trust me, I have a lot of stories that I could share about working in the public and nonprofit sectors. And so this episode was inspired about one particular experience that I had. So there was this one time where I was working at a nonprofit, and I was working really, really hard under a lot of stress, putting in a lot of hours and trying to meet a bunch of really rigorous deadlines. And on this one particular day, I'm just going to say it, I was on the struggle bus. I was not on my A game. I was not on top of everything. And I felt like I had made a series of tiny mistakes and tiny oversights that all culminated in what was turning out to be a crisis situation for me. And I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to hit a particular deadline for an important project. And so on this particular day, I got all up in my head and I was all up in my feelings because I could not bear the thought of failing, of not meeting the deadline, of just letting myself and the organization and everyone else down. And so I started to have like a little mini breakdown, which of course I did not have the time for. And so that made me feel even worse. Now, my boss at the time, she saw me spiraling, and so she kind of pulled me aside and tried to give me a little pep talk and give me some encouragement. And she said something that I will never forget. She told me that there was nothing wrong with me or the quality of my work. And she told me that even though I was struggling, I was still really talented and I was still really good at my job. And then she told me that I was actually doing the job of 3 people. And so I wasn't supposed to be on top of everything all the time because that was literally impossible. Y'all, she rocked my world with this comment because she was actually telling the truth. The work that I was doing, the job I had, at some point in the past, it had actually been handled by 3 separate full-time people. And so she knew that the workload that was assigned to me was unreasonable. She was literally not expecting me to execute on every project and every aspect of the job perfectly. Why? Because it wasn't set up for me to win. But here I was, stressing myself out, trying to figure out how to win at everything, and shaming myself when I failed. Because I didn't realize that it was a real life Kobayashi Maru. It was a no-win scenario. There was no way that I could handle everything that was assigned to me at work and spend time with the people that I love and keep up with the hobbies that bring me joy and get a full night's sleep every night and be healthy and stay involved in my various volunteer commitments. I I was gonna lose at something no matter what, because the game was not designed for me to win. And for a lot of us perfectionists, especially women, the ambitions that we have in our careers can feel like unwinnable scenarios. If you want to move up the corporate ladder, especially while you're young, then you essentially decide that you're going to put your love life on hold or put starting a family on the back burner. If you want more flexibility, then maybe you have to settle for being underpaid and undervalued at whatever job you're at. If you want to be the boss, then you're agreeing to being isolated and misunderstood, so forget about having friends, right? And this is often how the game is set up, or at least this is how we are taught to believe that the game works. Winning in one area means losing in another. But perfectionists, of course, we are often obsessed with winning, even when we're in a Kobayashi Maru, an unwinnable situation. And so we will end up burning ourselves out trying to find the winning strategy, which is, of course, futile. But because we don't know that we're in the Kobayashi Maru simulation, we think that we're just doing something wrong. And so we will spend all kinds of energy trying to find the right choice so that we can win. And so as I think about, the collision of Star Trek and real life, I want to offer you 2 lessons that perfectionists can take from the Kobayashi Maru. Number 1, sometimes winning isn't the point. Your achievements won't always be the markers of your success. Sometimes the point is to confront failure and to see what it reveals about you, to see what it reveals about your values, your desires, your strengths, your weaknesses, and whatever it is that you learn about yourself in the process, apply those insights and that wisdom to the next test. Sometimes that's it. And number 2, sometimes you have to change the parameters of the game in order to win. So in Star Trek, Captain James T. Kirk of the Star Trek Enterprise, he is famously the only person to have ever won the Kobayashi Maru. But he did it not by making a better choice, but he did it by reprogramming the simulation on his 3rd attempt. So he literally hacked the program and changed what the possible outcomes were because he did not believe in a no-win situation. And so I want to challenge you to do the same in your life. When you find yourself in what feels like an unwinnable situation, ask yourself what a winning outcome would look like, and then reverse engineer the process and work your way into the decisions that you would have to make to create that winning outcome. But also consider this: what are the choices that you can make and feel like a winner no matter how they turn out? Don't let the game define your wins. Set your own goalposts and call your own plays. That is the only way to actually win. All right, that's all I got for you for this week. Thank you for indulging me and my obsession with all things Star Trek. If you want to learn how to stop letting perfectionism back you into unwinnable scenarios in your career, sign up for one-on-one coaching with me, your favorite life coach. To get started, just tap the link that's in the show notes to book a call with me, and let's get this party started for real, for real. In the meantime, I will be back in your ears next week with another juicy and potentially less nerdy episode. All right, thanks for rocking with me. Peace.